Hello and welcome to my EHR214 Skill Acquisition Assessment 2, focusing on motor learning. I will cover three components, number one being the autonomous stage of learning, two, part practice focusing on segmentation, and three, demonstration, highlighting modelling. So the first topic, autonomous stage of learning. The autonomous stage is the third of three stages of learning in the Fitz and Posner model. Being the final stage, it is also known as the automatic stage, due to athletes being able to perform the movement and skill to such a high degree that it appears that they are performing it like it's second nature. This concept is important to understand from a teacher's and coach's perspective, as not all athletes will be able to move to be within this stage. Fitz and Posner's model states that everyone begins in the cognitive stage. How long they stay in this stage varies. Through coaching and practice, students then develop basic skills, which eventually moves them into the associative stage. In the associative stage, students begin to apply the learned basic skills to fit specific environmental cues. Here I would like to reiterate that not all athletes can move from associative to autonomous. Certain skills just can't be learned as easy as others. To progress to the autonomous stage, athletes must perform skills out of pure instinct, without conscious thought. This can only be achieved through natural talent. Example, Rafael Nadal's autonomous with tennis at the age of 12, or through sheer hard work and determination. But this is not always guaranteed. To sum up the previous slides, it is important to remember as a coach to not be frustrated if a student or athlete cannot progress to the autonomous stage, because it's very rare, as a lot of coaches can only deal with these sort of higher grade athletes on a national or international level. When it comes to coaching children, the time it takes to progress from one stage to another varies. It is unrealistic to expect a 12 or 15-year-old to advance to the autonomous stage, where decisions and movements are automatic reflexes. My first example for this is tennis and Roger Federer. It's a quick clip showing a point against Novak Djokovic where he shows a lot of good skills where he's just knocking the ball back into play, which is autonomous in itself, but he finishes a point with a very expertly done through-the-leg shot. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. My next clip is of an athlete playing in the NBL for the Lakers by the name of Sasha Vujacic. He goes on a show called Sports Science, and he shows off his excellent free throw percentage of 87%, where he can even get to the point where they throw him off and put him on stilts and then put extra gloves on him and blindfold him, and he can still get 8 out of the 10 shots.
Stepping up to the challenge is one of basketball's top marksmen, NBA star Sasha Vujacic. Sasha is dangerous from beyond the arc, nailing 38% of his three-pointers. But he's also consistently among the league leaders in free throw percentage, hitting nearly 9 out of every 10 free throws he attempts.
The free throw is something that always stays the same. It's just you and the basket. You just gotta focus. If you're in the game, if you're in the moment, you're not gonna be able to miss.
So you're an 87% lifetime free throw.
Not good enough though, not good enough. I wanna be over 90, 95, around that.
Shaquille O'Neal
Big fella.
hovers around 50%. We just want to see how good a free throw shooter you are. Under any circumstance, are you better than Shaq?
But making Sasha Shaq-sized isn't enough. We want to see if Sasha can outshoot Shaq from the free throw line while blindfolded. But now that he's Shaq's height, 6 inches taller, if he relies purely on muscle memory, he'll clank them all off the back of the rim. Will Franken Shaq Franken stink? Time to find out. In spite of his fresh handicaps, Sasha still drains the free throws. Because he's a half foot taller, he uses both muscle memory and visualization to create the ideal 45-degree launch angle necessary to get the ball to the bucket.
That clip goes for a bit longer, and I did cut out a lot in the middle because they do a lot of other experiments and tests. But it really just highlights the autonomous stage that Sasha's in, where even when he's handicapped and blindfolded, through muscle memory and visualization, his body can still perform all the skills to sink free throws every time. Moving on to my second topic is part practice focusing on segmentation. Segmentation, also known as progressive part method, assists in overcoming problems when putting all the components of a skill together before taking part in whole training. Segmentation refers to when a large skill is broken into smaller components to make it easier to understand and remember, gradually progressing all the way up until the students are performing the entire skill. The theory is that gradually adding new components to easy to perform skills aids in developing an athlete's confidence as they approach whole skills. This concept is a pivotal tool, especially for coaches and teachers, when they are working with younger students simply anyone in the cognitive stage of learning. This process enables the coach to make a multifaceted skill simpler by breaking it down into smaller fundamentals. Segmentation is a perfect method when you are teaching students that are still in the cognitive stage of learning. Breaking down whole drills or skills into smaller, easy to understand commands assists beginners in fully grasping the understanding and encourages them to remember the steps on their way to the associative stage. I made a clip the other day going through the segmentation when it comes to doing a drop punt in the AFL.
When we're trying to teach kids about the AFL drop punt, it's really important to enforce the part practice procedures. Because when you try to explain to kids just by using general modelling, sometimes they forget certain steps, and that's when it starts to break down. What we do is we break it straight down into all the components of where to kick, as in how to hold the ball, then what we do afterwards to connect with the actual foot. First things first, we just generally try to teach the kids how to hold the footy. Most important thing, if you don't hold the footy right, that's when it's going to start spinning wrong. And we want to make sure that we're getting that nice little backspin going. So first things first, straight around the laces. Try to make a love heart if a lot of kids' hands are quite small, so they might have to just hold it a little bit to the side. But what we want to do, fingers around the laces, and make sure that the point of the ball is pointed to the foot that we're going to kick with. So I'm right-footed, so it's going to be holding it right over my right leg. From there, after we've checked all the kids to make sure that they're holding the ball correctly, that's when we move on to making sure that they're actually going to kick the ball properly. A lot of kids' first instinct is to chuck the ball up in the air and then try to kick it out of mid-air. We really have to reinforce it as just simply dropping the ball onto their foot so they have more control over the ball. So what we have to do is go into the 3-step procedure. Step, drop, kick. To do this, we have to just simply take a step with our non-dominant foot. We drop the ball above our dominant foot, so my right foot, and then just try to get the proper backspin going. Like that. From there, after the kids have a few practices, so step, drop, kick, making sure that they're trying to get the nice backspin going, because that's when we're going to be most accurate, when we do the actual drop punt spin. After we've got all the kids holding the ball correctly, and they've now got the step, drop, kick in their minds, we then want them to move into hitting a target now. Because in AFL, we want to make sure that they're hitting the targets. So what we have to do now is we start to go through all the stages that we've already practiced. So So we've got them holding the ball correctly, pointing the ball at their foot. We then move into a step drop kick, but instead of going straight up, getting the nice spin back, we want to try to get the same effect but kicking forward to a partner. So holding the ball, down our right foot, step, drop, kick.
There we have just a few of the fundamentals coming with the drop punt kick. So kicking with themselves after they've got the grasp of holding the ball and then dropping it onto their foot. You then move it to kicking with a partner. And the next stage after that, you can have people walking and then kicking at goal, giving the kids a bit of reward. And then from there, you can move into running. The next step I'm going to go with is swimming, especially freestyle. Breaking up swimming is a great way for the kids to actually learn swimming, as it's a bit of danger if everyone's in the cognitive stage, they don't like swimming that much, and you're just trying to get them moving around. It's a little bit of danger because if they start getting their face underwater, they start to panic quite easily. So first things first, we just simply get the kids with their elbows on the board to just do general kicking, making sure they're reinforcing long straight legs, bubbles behind them, and it doesn't have their face in the water, so they're never in any trouble and they don't panic. After we have the kids happy with doing just that, we start putting their faces in the water. So they still have the board, so if they still get into trouble, they have a flotation device to help them, but we want them having their faces in the water, making sure that they're blowing bubbles as they go. The next step is actually introducing arms. So this also reinforces breathing as well. So we still have them holding onto the board with one hand, but we want them to also make sure that they're stroking with one of the other hands. So one hand stays on the board, and the other hand is just constantly rotating, trying to learn the freestyle stroke. From there, the kids then start alternating arms. So they're still holding onto the board with one hand, but they do a stroke, grab back onto the board, and swap hands. Doing that skill still means that they're basically doing freestyle, but the kids are in no danger because they have a flotation device, so it keeps them nice and calm. And finally, once they're all confident with all of those skills, you take the board away, and that's when the kids just go straight into doing freestyle. Another thing with teaching kids how to swim, it also makes it easier if you give kids flippers, and that means that they can make sure that they're never in any danger, and just an extra drive and motivation to keep going. So on to my third topic, demonstration, highlighting modelling. Modelling, or observational learning, is a tool used by coaches and teachers to physically demonstrate certain actions or skills. When it comes to explaining drills or actions, verbal instructions just won't get the message across as clearly as having a visual aid. Work done McCullen and Weiss in 2001 and McCulloch, Law and Stinmary in 2012 found that demonstration is more effective under certain circumstances than simply giving instructions verbally. Research conducted by Williams and Hodges in 2005 states that even though demonstration is an effective means to relay information, coaches need to ensure that they are effective in conveying messages verbally as well as non-verbally. My first example when it goes with demonstration of modelling, I teach Ausswim, and the biggest thing when I try to find when I teach breaststroke is it's a lot different to the other types of strokes. Unlike freestyle butterfly backstroke, which are movements up and down, breaststroke is out and around. So if you simply just use verbal instructions to kids and you say, when you do the kick, go push your heels up towards your bottom, then plantar-flex your foot, and then straighten your knees, and then whip them together. A lot of jargon in there, kids aren't going to get it. So I found it a lot easier when I taught breaststroke to just simply show them a clip where it showed what I do as a autonomous swimmer, where everything is just second nature. With certain movie functions, you can actually slow that right down, pause it at each stage, and the kids can then have a visualization in their minds what their feet should do. My second demonstration of modelling is this clip is dramatised because it's obviously on show, but the same concept actually takes place in a lot of dojos where the martial art instructor or the sensei will stand in the front of the class, demonstrate a movement and yell a command, and then the class has to repeat it back to him. Just to summarise my three components, first one being autonomous stage of learning. This is just explaining that when athletes train hard enough and learn the skills, they just become second nature for them. It's all just reflex, and they just perform the movement or skill without any conscious thought. Second being part practice, focusing on segmentation, where coaches will break down multifaceted and complex skills into easy and simple to understand smaller skills, where going and training them one by one, gradually getting harder. When you put them all together, you can then perform the more complex skill in whole training. The third being demonstration, highlighting, modelling, where coaches will use themselves or a more advanced student than others to physically do the skill, so the students that don't quite know what to do can physically see what they have to do. And there are all my resources I use to get all my information for this slideshow. Thank you very much for listening.